There were 1,000 people in the hall, and I said, my name is Chris Smith. I'm the Labour MP for Islington South and Finsbury, and I'm gay.
A group of us in the Gay Liberation Front hit on the idea of holding a gay pride march to challenge that shameful view.
Equality, and for some people in Stonewall, like me, equality was kind of like what you got to as a starting point.
Welcome to The View From Here, the podcast that explores the lives of key people in the LGBTQ+ movement. I'm James.
And I'm Jonathan. We hope you enjoy the podcast.
Today we're joined by Ted Brown, a veteran of the Gay Liberation Front and a powerful voice for black gay activism.
Today's episode explores themes of coming out, community building, and how his activism continues right up to the present day. This episode speaks to the power of intersectionality and resilience in the face of racism and homophobia. Ted Brown is an activist who is really in the forefront of the movement of the 20th century, so much so that he's in a book by Lewis Laney called 365 Gays of the Year. You're July 1st. And why were you July 1st, Ted?
Because I was one of the people to help organize the very first gay pride march back in 1972.
Incredible. Before we get to the gay pride march in 1972, I would love to take you back and just ask a little bit about your early life. Where were you born? Where did you grow up?
Yes, I was born in New York. Jamaican parents who divorced. They split up, sadly, rather acrimoniously. And my mother, because of her status as a Jamaican, which she lost once she divorced my father, was deported and came, first of all, to Jamaica. And then she managed to get us to England because she felt that there were certain aspects of education and social politics that we would not be able to enjoy in Jamaica, but would be able to follow up in Britain. She had been an activist herself, had been on various demonstrations with the civil rights movement. And in fact, that was one of the reasons that she was deported. On the documents that came through saying that she was being told to leave the country, she was labeled as a troublemaker because she had been involved in the civil rights movement. And
was it the NAACP that she was involved in?
Yes, yeah. She had actually met Martin Luther King. Wow. Not on a personal one-to-one basis, but she'd been to some of his speeches when he came to New York and had been very, very impressed. And I think he appealed to her, his movement appealed to her because her background in Jamaica was very conventional. Her parents were both head teachers of schools. And Jamaica at that time, the establishment had very kind of Victorian attitudes to things like discipline, about race, for example. I mean, it was quite open in many in the 1950s for people to be escalate up the social ladder, depending upon how light or dark they were. You know? And she objected very much strongly to that stuff, and she found going back to Jamaica was quite intolerable. So she came to England instead.
So your early childhood, well, much of your childhood was a kind of a liberation struggle that you saw your mother engaging in, but it was racial rather than homophobia or LGBT rights.
Yeah, because I mean, obviously at that stage I didn't know that I was gay. That came up later, because I was born in 1950, so things have changed a great deal over the years for me.
And you've helped shape things to be better for all of us. We're going to talk a lot about that.
And when did you end up coming out? And for that experience, did you have the vocabulary to understand what you were feeling?
Well, it's not really a case of, initially, it's not a case of coming out. It's a case of being aware of who you are and how you're feeling. When I was about 13 or 14, I had very close friends with various girls in school. I was living at the time in Deptford, in South London, and I'm very close to the same area now, 50 years later. But my interest in them wasn't sexual, but there were a couple of boys in school that I found very attractive. And I think I began to realize that that's what was happening. And I had a really revelatory experience when my school, which was South East London Secondary School, on Creek Road in Greenwich, they had a separate section for the older children, which was in New Cross. So I used to walk from my home in Deptford Church Street to New Cross to go to school. And en route, there was what was called the Popular Bookstore. I don't think they still exist now. And there may be one still in Charing Cross. But they were a shop where you could buy a book or a magazine and take that book back to get 50% credit. So if you bought it for £1, when you took it back, you got 50p credit on the next thing that you bought. And one of the things that I saw in their window was a drawing by Tom of Finland.
Oh, wow.
In their window.
I should have brought the picture. It wasn't actually sexual activity. It was one of his early pictures of him standing over Tom's, character, standing in his kind of that actor Marlon Brando.
Oh yeah.
Kind of look. Do you know about the film Wild One?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wild One, where he's wearing jeans and on the motorcycle and it's all overwhelmingly butch. And he's standing in front of somebody who's a younger man who's cleaning a pair of jeans, and that's on the cover. But the storyline in the book, when you look through all these, like 30 pictures, is that he's giving a lift to this guy on the bike, and the guy does something that causes him to crash the bike. And that leads to him getting oil on his pants. So he has to take his pants off, and he's standing just in his underwear, and the guy in front of him is cleaning the crotch of these jeans. And I walked all the way home with one of the hardest erections. And that's when I knew absolutely for sure.
And you didn't. I'm sure you did take that book back and get the half-price deposit back.
I didn't get it immediately. I thought I'd need an awful lot of nerve to actually take it. It would be something that if I had it in the house, I would have to
hide it. Yeah, for sure.
Because this is 1963-64, which is before Stonewall happened. Yeah. That was 1969. So homosexuality was not a socially popular topic to discuss. I knew it would be condemned by everybody, except, again, by my mother, because I did come out to her about 2 years later.
So you're about 16.
Yeah, 15, 16, yeah. And because I had a real crush on a particular guy at school, and I felt I had to talk to somebody. And I knew my mother would not condemn me if I wasn't doing anything that was harming anybody else. Yeah. And so she cried on my shoulder, I cried on her shoulder, because she said to me, you're going to have to deal with the hostility people have towards both black people and towards homosexuals. And I hope, somehow you managed to cope with that.
So her response was almost outpouring of care and love.
Yes.
Amazing.
I mean, yeah, she was. I mean, I think also she was influenced by a number of things that actually very much strongly influenced me, which was, the civil rights movement. One of the early marches, the biggest march held by the civil rights group, was organized by
Bayard Rustin.
Sorry?
Bayard Rustin.
Bayard Rustin,
Yeah.
who at the time was openly,
Washington.
and he was openly gay.
Interesting. So there was actually that somewhat interconnection between the different civil rights and LGBT movements.
Exactly.
And your mum was influenced positively by that.
Right, too. And also, a couple of years later, I mean, she died in 1965 when I was 15.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, she was, I think, only 49, but she'd had a really difficult time with stress and all sorts of other issues. And she pointed out to me that one of the people in the Black Power movement, the Black Panthers, had been very supportive of the gay movement, and a lot of people know that. And you can actually look it up, which is Huey Newton, who was the commander-in-chief of said when he was talking to a gay person who was out and protesting about the way that gay people were being treated, he said, yeah, maybe a homosexual could be more revolutionary than even black people, because they get kicked in the teeth even more than we do. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And yeah, you can find that online. And again, that's him being ahead of time, because he was talking about gay people in a positive, or at least a not condemning way, years before that was acceptable. Yeah. So,
and I think one of the interesting things that we've experienced is that a lot of the stories, and I'm very interested, I've said on this podcast before that I'm Jamaican myself, and I had a very lucky and positive experience coming out to my family. But we've heard lots of positive experiences of people coming out. Now, of course, that's not universal, and lots of people still struggle to come out to their families. And a lot of people, when they come out to their families, have really negative consequences.
Yes.
But there are the positive stories. There are the stories of love and care that transcend people's sexuality, which I think is important to highlight.
Yeah.
Was Bayard Rustin an inspiration for you as well? Did you realize at that time, at 16 years old, that there was this figure in the Black civil rights movement in America who was like you, or did that come later?
No, she did mention that. She had not been able to go on that great march, but she knew about, I forgot his name again.
Bayard
Rustin, yeah. And that he had been fairly openly, because he had made a statement, and one of the demonstrations, that one day gay people will be fighting for their rights in the same way that black people were. Because he was being treated pretty badly by some of the people in the civil rights movement. Because, as you know, sexuality is considered in a very different category to race by many people.
And so your mom died when you were 16.
Yeah.
How did that affect you, other than being awful and emotionally terrible?
Well, I got a feeling that I had my younger brother and younger sister to look after. They later said that they were surprised at how I handled the situation, because my mother had very bad asthma. It was an asthma attack that led to her attack. And we were living in what was called Thames Street in Greenwich, which is where I'm living now, 50 years later. And there was a telephone box, and I tried mouth-to-mouth respiration. I didn't know what I was doing, but I had heard about it. Ran out to the phone box, made a call, waited for the ambulance to turn up and so on. And Jackie, who at that time was 11.
It's your younger sister.
Yeah, and my younger brother, who was then only 5, right? Jackie said that she was very proud of the fact that I didn't just stand wringing my hands. I did trying to do something sensible about that, and I felt really boistered by that. Now, all the years in between, there was still this feeling of isolation, and it was only at the time after we moved in with a couple of school teachers. Two teachers at my school heard about my mother's death, and he took me in with his family, me and my younger brother and sister.
Wow.
And were very supportive. By then I was at Elton Green Comprehensive School. And which was really very helpful because we had spent a short period of time in a care home. And although care homes then were quite efficient, I think they were better than they are now in some ways, because they relied much more on people who were really committed to helping children rather than those who were following an obligatory social agenda. So we felt wanted. We weren't in the care home because we were in a care home. Mm-hmm. People had actually taken us on when they didn't have to. And we were there for quite some time. Then I moved out when I was about 18 to go and live by myself. And at the time, there were a lot of underground papers you might have heard of. There was Friends and Oz magazine. And I met one of the editors of Oz magazine around the time that they were taken to court, because they had done 2 issues that were really controversial. Oz magazine, I think it's worth you having a look at some of their stuff. They did a gay issue in which they asked people who were homosexual to just say what they wanted to, and they were really open about it. They just let them say whatever they want. And the school kids issue was the one that they really got into trouble with, because they gave editorial powers to 15 and 16-year-olds, and they said, you say whatever you really want. Those kids are some outrageous. I mean, you wouldn't believe. I don't know if you can say this on the podcast. You might have to cut it out. One of the kids, 16 or 17 years old, was a very skilled artist, and he did a parody of Rupert Bear.
Oh my.
With an enormous erection, having sex with another popular kids character. I can't remember. and a couple of pictures, one of them involves him pressing his fingers on a vagina to say, "Is this where it goes?" Stuff like that. I mean, Oz had been thrown out of Australia. That's where they originally came from. That's right. And I found out that the Jim, I've forgotten I'll get his second name, was openly gay. And I met with him, didn't have sex with him, but I was just amazed that they were so open. And for the first time, I met people who were prepared to let young people say exactly what they wanted with no restrictions. So, of course, they wound up in court, and it was enormous debate and controversy. But they got funding from people like the Stones.
Wow, okay.
The Rolling Stones, and
Wow.
I'm trying to think somebody else that was famous. I think it was Led Zeppelin and Bob Dylan, people from the States, It was such a big issue. And I think it was in Oz that I read there was going to be forming a group for homosexuals to object to the way that gay people were being treated. And I tootled along to the LSE, London School of Economics. But I wasn't there for the very first meeting. Right. And it was only then that I heard about Stonewall. Stonewall happened 2 or 3 years
And it
before.
wasn't widely reported?
No, it wasn't. No,
Wow.
no.
Wow.
And in fact, I don't think, I'm still looking it up, but I don't think our first Pride March was mentioned in many of the papers either. A very effective way. I mean, I had this debate with a lot of people, both as a black person and as a gay person, whether if society wants to suppress somebody, is it more effective for them to shout and shut you down, or more effective for them to completely ignore you?
Ignore you and silence you.
Yeah, I think being ignored is much more effective because then there's no debate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Particularly back in the 70s when the media landscape was so different to how it is now. You don't have social media.
Exactly.
Of course, and
Yeah.
so what was printed in the mainstream newspapers was what
That was
people
it.
learnt about.
Yeah, but that's what you got. And so I went to the second or third meeting at the LSC, and I think some of the stuff that I've given you now has me talking about what it felt like to be in a room full of other homosexual people who were actually angry about the way that we were being treated and were planning to do something about it. So I went to their meetings, and I think they were fortnightly. Yeah. And there were so many people meeting at the LSE that we actually got thrown out. And I don't think it was homophobia. I think it was just so many. Yeah. And also, this was a group of people who were coming out for the very first time. So they were being absolutely outrageous and doing things that they'd never wanted. You know, there were students from the LSE who were coming to the meetings in drag.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
You know, because they said, I've always wanted to be. And in fact, I think a lot of what were then called transvestites were actually transgender people, but transgender wasn't a very available or popular issue in those days. There were only, there's that famous transgender, April Ashley. Yes. Who was outed, I think, by the Daily Mirror because there was no question that she was a woman. You wouldn't look at her and think, this is, the result of an operation or anything like that. And I think somebody at the Daily Mirror or something, after they did an article called "How to Spot a Possible Homo."
Oh, my God.
Wow.
So how did that make you feel when you read and saw articles like that? Did it make you want to fight?
No, I just translated it from how I felt about the way I'd been reading about black people for years. It wasn't anything new. New for me. And in fact, I also think that the reason I didn't feel shame about being gay was because I didn't feel shame about being black. And I recognized the similar hostility and the similar prejudices and realized that the problem wasn't me. And in fact, it's been one of my real issues for a very long time about our language and the way that we talk about things. I never say so-and-so got abused because he's gay or because he's black. I always say so-and-so got abused because those people are prejudiced or those people are racist. Because the first sentence leaves the abusers out.
Yep.
They're not mentioned. And it also implies grammatically that the problem is with this person. Yeah. They're being abused because they're black. Is their being black is the cause of the problem rather than, and that's always been one of the things I've been talking about for some time. And so we moved to Middle Earth, which is in
Covent Garden.
Yeah. And in fact, I think that's one of the first occasions on which I became aware of Nettie.
Yes. Oh, who we met.
We've
already spoken to. Yeah.
Did she mention? Because I was talking about the similarity between being abused as a black person and being abused. And she said that she came in while I was halfway through the speech, and she was quite impressed by it. And that's where we first met.
So Nettie very much talked about being a woman in the burgeoning LGBT equality movement.
Yeah.
And I guess her reflections of that were that it was difficult. It was a very male dominated, but I suppose it was also a very white male dominated environment. And what were your experiences as a black man coming into that movement?
Well, it's what I expected, actually. I knew that there was going to be a problem. Most of the people in the Gay Liberation Front initially were middle-class white men, right? Because they're the ones who could afford to do it. They could give up their jobs for a day or whatever it involved. Traveling in those days was much more expensive, but out of your income. The ability to write about it. I mean, the editor, if you're writing a magazine, you're not working class.
Yeah, of course.
So I was aware of that. And also there is the issue that no one should ignore, which is that there was no law against being a lesbian. The law was mainly about keeping men in line as men. And I was, for a long time, I was the only black person there. And there were advantages and disadvantages to that with some people. Again, I think I could manage it. But occasionally I'd meet somebody who would sidle up to me and find me attractive because they were convinced that as a black man I had a bigger cock. Because these rumors and myths and so, they permeate all sorts of classes and so on, and it's and I expected it. I knew that would happen. Or I even met people who occasionally, I mean, this is not all the time, it's only a few people.
Of course.
But also, I've realized that for every person who was actually saying that, there would be at least two people who felt that way but hadn't said it.
Right.
Yeah. But there were also people who were aware. They would say, I bet you're going through a bit of a difficulty as a black person here because there's no space.
Yeah.
We don't allocate space for you. And the thing about it, I do remember on a couple of occasions where people were saying they didn't really want there to be women at the meetings because women had no problem because of the law.
And so that comes on to an interesting part, which is the Campaign for Homosexual Equality talked about and was very focused on law change, legal change.
Yes.
Whereas GLF was seemingly more focused on societal change, liberation, cultural change. What side of that did you fall on, and why did you become part of GLF, not CHE, or were you still pushing for legal change as well as for cultural liberation?
Well, I was much more interested on the social change because that's where it actually impacted us. For a lot of people, they did not know what the law actually said.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What they did know was that they couldn't come out to their families.
Yeah.
Or all of us who were suspected of being gay had, certainly as men, had been abused at school by other kids, for example. Mm-hmm. Whereas I'm not aware that girls who were not feminine were being teased as being lesbian.
But still had the same challenges of coming out to their parents and had children that were taken away, and so other huge challenges that are awful. Yeah. And so
the social
challenges were just, even if it wasn't codified in law, the social challenges were just as challenging.
But we did do some research on that, and apparently they did try to insert anti-lesbian laws via Queen Victoria.
Mm-hmm. Really?
And her reply apparently consisted of two main arguments. One is that No, three. One, that women wouldn't do that kind of stuff. Secondly, if there's no penis around, it's not sex.
Ah, interesting.
And because apparently she was quite a sexual person. She very much loved, what was it? What was her? Albert. I mean, they had dozens of children.
Yes.
And and they made a big. I do remember reading about her in terms of that, because somebody in the Gay Liberation Front argued that she had a very close relationship with some of the handmaidens or whatever they call them in the palace, and that she may have had some kind of lesbian relationship with one or two of these people, but they wouldn't be really recognized in the same way that some people don't consider that. I mean, look at straight porn. Straight male porn sometimes involves watching two women having sex, with each other, but they're not looking at it as two lesbians.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, and again, that's a bit of the, if there's no penis involved, it's not really sex. Right. And also women it's not really sex in that way because women are more romantic or sensitive or all sorts of things. Yeah.
Did the GLF talk or think about these philosophical concepts around sex?
Yeah. I think it was a lot of arguments about the way we're behaving. I mean, I think I may have on my phone. I don't know how to get some of the stuff that I have on my laptop onto my phone, but the first marches had a lot of people. There's a picture of me being kissed by somebody in what might be drag, but it's not drag in the sense of lots of makeup. It's wearing women's clothes, and you're not absolutely sure whether it is male or female. And they were involved, and nobody was critical or offended about them. Right. I mean, GLF was surprisingly open about the different types and shades of sexuality, because one of their arguments was that sexuality is on a spectrum.
Right.
Yeah, you don't have to be male, John Wayne Butch stuff, or Marilyn Monroe feminine.
Yep.
Yeah, there's a whole range in between. So, I think GLF was really ahead of time.
I was going to say that is extremely ahead of time. I think even at that point, thinking about spectrums of both sexuality and gender, and there's often a sort of sense that early gay rights movements were very much focused on gay men, and quite binary in terms of gay, not anything else, men, not anything else, and that being the focus. But GLF was such a broader, more progressive thinking organization.
Yeah. And I really say it's really important that we weren't an organization.
Well, of course.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
Because the idea with GLF, we had these. Did they mention think-ins to you?
Nettie mentioned
We've heard about think-ins from Nettie, but I'd love to hear your.
Yeah, it was really important that anyone should be listened to. Oh, did I include? I've moved actually. I moved about 2 years ago from our house after my partner died, after Noel died. And there are some items that are missing. I don't know what's happened to them in storage. One is the double pink triangle. I don't know if I haven't sent you a photograph of that. Mm-hmm. I will send you a photograph. It's a double pink triangle. The large triangle was for GLF as a whole, and the small triangle was for the youth group. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Because at the time, the law had changed, but no sex for gay men under the age of 21. Yep. And I will send you a photograph of me at the first march with the youth contingent who allowed me to march because I'd been involved with them. But at the time, I was actually 22.
Oh, right. And so tell us about that youth contingent march, because that was the year before the first Pride March. Is that right?
No. We had a separate march. We started the march, and leading the march was the youth group.
Ah, okay.
Right.
Yeah, saying, equality. If you have for heterosexuals, freedom of sexual freedom was available at 16. It should be for homosexuals as well.
Yep.
So I wish I had bought that photograph. Actually, it might actually have it.
There's an amazing array of literature that you brought with you.
Yeah.
Painting a picture. We've got a table here covered in books, leaflets.
We recently had, I think it's last year, we put this blue plaque up there. The black.
There's an amazing picture of a blue plaque with a rainbow round it, which is incredible. I loved it.
Yeah.
And it talks about the Black Gay and Lesbian Centre, which was set up from 92 to 95, Europe's groundbreaking first support centre for Black queer communities. And you were heavily involved in this, weren't you?
Yes, because, as I said, I think for about 2 years I was the only person in the Gay Liberation Front. And I think also it gives you an idea of the way society is structured. Because even if you hadn't said that to me, I would have known that the first people to start fighting about gay rights would be middle-class white men. Mm-hmm. Because they have the assets, the money, they have the press, the media, and so on and so forth. Yeah. And that applies in every other situation as well. That the social position that they have in terms of race and class feeds into their actions and their rights and their powers.
And the other, I'm hesitant to call it an organization in case it wasn't, but the other organization you were a part of, well, you were foundational in, was Black Lesbians and Gays Against Media Homophobia.
Yes.
Can you tell us a bit about that, and specifically about Justin Fanshawe as well?
Well, that was specifically about trying to help Black people who were already dealing with the issues of racism, and saying fighting on sexual rights is also helping on the race issue as well. Because, for instance, my partner was white, right? And we both had to fight racism from both the Black community and the white community. They came in different ways, some of them really hurtful. A lot of them I didn't expect, but the ones that were hurtful because of my identity as a Black person were the Black people who assumed that Noel was the boss in our relationship because he's white.
Oh, right.
And I must, as a Black person, to be working with a white person, I must actually be like a good servant or something.
Wow.
And to realize that but that to me is an element of the Jamaican attitude. Like I was saying earlier, it's still true, isn't it? Do you remember, what was that beauty contest where that Miss Jamaica was bright red hair and...
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I think it was might have been a Miss World or a Miss Universe. But I mean, the two Miss Jamaicas who have won Miss World have been very light-skinned.
Yeah.
You had Cindy Breakspear in 1979, I think, although don't quote me on the date, who was very light-skinned. I mean, my sort of complexion.
Yeah.
And then you had Lisa Hanna in the late 90s. I don't know why I know this. But who was also very light-skinned and who's now a senator in the Jamaican Parliament. So yeah, though it still very much exists.
I think you know it because deep in all of us is an understanding or a realization of what is happening.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Sometimes we don't have to put it in words, but we all know that this stuff is happening, and there are different ways of dealing with it. But yeah.
And can you tell us the story about Justin Fanshawe, who he was, what happened to him?
Oh yes, yeah. Well, Justin Fanshawe came out. Did I give all the pictures? He came out as gay because actually he was being threatened by the Sun newspaper that they were going to expose him as being gay.
Because he was a very very well-known footballer at the
Yeah,
time.
yeah, very popular. Also, were the first black footballer to be worth $1 million or something like that.
Yeah.
Something really
Extraordinary good
remarkable.
footballer.
And because he was also very good as a footballer. And they were going to expose him, and he thought, it's better for me to come out than for them, to be exposed as like something shameful. And so he did. And unfortunately, the Voice newspaper interviewed his brother and did headlines about my brother's an outcast. He's brought shame on the family, blah, 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 I mean, some of the stuff that they were writing was like, straight white newspapers hadn't done that kind of negative stuff for ages. And so we organized this boycott, the Voice newspaper. We had interviews with them. But by this time, I was now living in Brixton with Noel. And the offices of the Voice newspaper were at the junction of Railton Road and Cold Harbour Lane. So we could actually walk there.
So you're just down the road.
Yeah, so I went there and we debated with them. And I think I've included with you a letter that we had from them after, I think, was it 9 weeks? The whole of Nalgo boycotted the Voice newspaper. And they finally agreed to stop being so madly homophobic. Because the thing that upset Justin, he was expecting a lot of criticism from the white community, but it really hurt him the way the Voice newspaper targeted the black community against him, because his brother said, Justin has brought shame on our family, whereas various editorials in the Voice newspaper were saying he has brought shame on black people in general.
Wow.
Which is really, and he had very much depended upon the support of the black community as a footballer. He was very proud of his achievements.
And we refer to him in the past tense because unfortunately he tragically ended his own life.
Yes. And that was quite complicated as well. He went to the States and he was accused by some 17-year-old of sexual assault. So he came back to London and locked himself in the garage and turned on the engine. And, yeah. Even though I had a civil partnership with Noel in 2017, because I realized he was getting dementia, and I needed to make sure that I had a responsibility as a carer. And the council and various other people did not recognize our relationship. And when he was first moved into this care home, I had correspondence with one of the people who was actually involved in his care specifically. She'd met me, she'd met Noel, who was white, yeah. And I had protested at them that Noel had been in the care home for 2 weeks and hadn't had an assessment. He should have had when you move into a care home, they assess you to try and avoid things like giving you the wrong kind of food if you've got an allergy and so on and so forth. So I wrote to them saying, what's happening with this assessment? And they wrote back.
Can I read this?
Yeah.
So it comes back, and the response was, following our telephone conversation, I can confirm that an assessment of health needs will be carried out for your father, John Glynn, this afternoon at 2 p.m. This will be carried out by our nurse.
Yeah. So
they thought he was your father.
Yeah. They didn't think that he was my father. That's one of the things I made an issue of. They did not want to recognize that he was my partner. They did not want to recognize gay people as a relationship.
And the important thing about this is this email is dated January 2019.
Yeah.
this is not distant past.
50 years ago.
This is right up to now.
Right. So Noel at the time was, I was 69. He was 75. And we had a civil partnership. When he went into the care home, we gave him all the documents about our civil partnership, about, the care that I had been giving him. And they wrote, he's white. He's 7 years older than me. They have our details, and he's not my father. But they still insisted on doing that. So we then, the follow-up to that has been, we got in touch with the Care Quality Commission about the treatment of lesbian and gay people. And they came up with this, which is actually quite good. So, what's it?
This is a leaflet from the
obtained during the visit by Ted and Julia in May 2016. That was before this. And it's absolutely excellent, right, about how gay people should be treated and recognized and so on and so forth. And then we went 8 years later to this production in which no gayness is not mentioned.
And Ted is showing us a magazine, a care home magazine for October 2023.
It takes absolutely no acknowledgement whatsoever. It's as though we hadn't met. I mean, they got Liz Truss as
right.
Tells you what you need to know.
So you're right. Stuff hasn't changed so much. They have changed the way that they speak. They sound much more understanding. But if I was going into a care home now, I would not let them know that I was gay.
That's a shocking thing
to hear.
Yeah. Which is why we're calling the organisation not going in the care closet. That's what we are setting up. We expect it to be online. Initially, it's going to be a website for people who are concerned that they are going into a care home or somebody that they know is going into a care home, and to give them both legal and social advice about who to go to. Because, for instance, when I sued the care home, I actually had a lot of difficulty finding solicitors who could handle it. Because you actually need to know about social care policies,
of course,
and the legal aspects of so on and so forth. Most people would not be able to protect their partners if they were being homophobically abused in a care home now.
Wow.
And I think that James and I'm a little bit older than James by a few years, which he reminds me of regularly. But we're both in our 40s, and there's a generation younger than us that we're hoping will listen to this. But there's a generation that's older than us who are going into care homes, and who earlier you said to me their colleagues weren't the most accepting of LGBT people, and now they're going to find themselves confronted with these same people in the care homes.
Yeah, and I mean, I summed it up. One of the slogans that we're using for the campaign "Not Going in the Care Home" is "The person who beat you up last night is bringing you breakfast in the morning." Because it's a one-to-one. I did a little article about some LGBT people in care homes that I saw what was happening, and you'd be surprised how easy it is and how often a carer can just accidentally kick your ankle as they're preparing your meal or changing your bed or whatever it is, or oops, did I spill tea on your lap again?
Yeah, you are extremely vulnerable in that.
Yeah, and it's a one-to-one. They're in a room you're in a room with this person. Yeah. There's no other witnesses. They can do what they want.
And of course, there are care homes that are positive, that will treat everyone with respect and care and dignity. But we need to make sure that
all of them
are
have to. Yeah. And to make an issue.
And so, what are the core campaign issues that you're calling for? Because you're talking about not being in the care closet. I think it's a wonderful name for the campaign, because it
not going in the care closet.
Not going in. Because people are live their whole lives as openly LGBTQ people, and then have to change that.
Yeah.
At that very end of life moment when you're most vulnerable.
Yeah, well, that's what we're finding, because I do have some friends who are in a care home, and I went to visit them, and they asked me, please don't let anybody know here that I'm gay, because, I mean, it's part of it is structural. For example, they have these, Noel was involved when they have these entertainment evenings. Sometimes the good care home will have evenings where they show films or whatever, but they're always heterosexual films, yeah? Or games like Spin the Bottle.
Wow.
Do you know Spin the Bottle? Yeah. Right, where inevitably you're placed opposite a woman.
Right.
If you're a gay male or whatever, yeah.
I definitely, that said, if I'm in a care home, want there to be spin the bottle. I really want there to be spin the bottle, but for equal opportunity to spin the bottle.
Yeah. So, I mean, 7 years later, they came out with this, and I actually went back with them, with Julia, who made the film, Ted and Noel. Did you say you hadn't seen it?
I haven't seen it, but tell us about the film.
It was just when I was beginning to raise issues about what was happening to Noel in the care home, and they came to film me and to talk about some of the issues. But I had to be fairly restrained because Noel was still in the care home. Mm-hmm. That's the other thing, that you have to be careful. If you have a partner who's in a care home and you think they're being homophobically abused, you have to be very careful about it, because you don't know whether the person managing the home is like Margaret Thatcher in her Section 28 days, yeah, or just one of the staff. So you have a staff, say 50 people, right? You only need 3 or 4 of them to be raging homophobes to make their people's lives. And you need to have rules specifically saying that you cannot abuse or insult people on the basis of their sexuality, and that this is, being lesbian or gay is acceptable and desirable and all the rest of it. Because otherwise you're just leaving it to a bunch of people, many of whom are employing people. A lot of the care homes, they get cheap staff because they're employing people from countries where it's still illegal to be gay.
Mm-hmm. So there's actually a big cultural issue in the very makeup of the stuff in some circumstances.
Exactly, yeah. And the other thing, of course, is that this has never been raised with the care homes before. Because one of the weaknesses of the Gay Liberation Front, and I don't blame them, but it's, I was involved as well, is that it was young movement. Mm-hmm. It involved young people. It was about, we want to have sex without being condemned and so on. If you were over 40, forget it.
that's
No, that's a bit extreme, but you know what I mean. Nobody was thinking about care homes then. Nobody was thinking about disabled people. Yeah.
But also, you're the first generation to have been openly gay throughout most of your adult lives, and now you're getting to the stage where that generation is part of the community in care homes.
Yeah, exactly. So
I just want to kind of go back and just because you got an award from Lambeth Council for your work on this, which you've been proudly showing us the award on your phone. It's fantastic. But it was Lambeth Council that you actually were suing for this. Tell us about the legal side of this.
Well, yes, they just realized I actually wanted to make sure that the home itself was sued, because I wanted the staff and the management there to recognize that this was an issue.
Yeah.
But the fact that it was actually allocated to Lambeth meant that the home just
kept doing what it did.
It's none of our business. It really doesn't matter. They were suing Lambeth, basically. And I think the £30,000 that we got was small compared to what would have happened to Noel. Mm-hmm. Because I've got the video somewhere here of me discovering the hole in the back of his hand where they stubbed out cigarettes on the back of his hand, various other behaviours.
And tragically, the case took so long that Noel was no longer with us when the settlement came through either.
Well, the money came through. I'm trying to think of there's something similar that is widely known where the liability has been quite clear. Oh yeah, the post office.
Yep.
Those people have been waiting 10 years and more for money that they were entitled to. It's not. There's still a debate about whether they should be getting compensation. They said 10 years ago you should get this compensation. Nothing.
Yeah.
You know.
And I'm going to struggle to form this question, but you were being an activist, but you've been throughout your life at a time when you were also going through tremendous grief because you were losing your partner.
Yeah.
How did you do that? Because I'm hoping that there will be people here who listen to your story and think, I want to be a troublemaker like your mom, like you. But it requires resilience. It requires grit. And I wonder how you managed to bring all of that to bear while you were going through this grief.
Well, I think it's the recognition of other people. If you care for somebody and they're being badly treated, I don't think you have an awful lot of difficulty in trying to fight for them.
No, I agree.
It's a different issue if it's political or social. If you're campaigning for gay people in theory, yeah. But if it's somebody that you know who has been punched in the face or kicked him out or something, but what the really difficulty is about strategy is about me knowing and suspecting one or two people in particular of abusing Noel and having to be quiet about it and talk to them politely, because every time I left, when I went to visit him, I thought, well, he's the one who has to deal with that. I can't antagonize these people.
Yeah.
I'm conscious that we're kind of just over an hour, but there's one question that we've asked everyone, and it's about messaging, right? We're hoping that people, we're in a state today where we're starting to see rights being rolled back, particularly for trans people. And, we're seeing the rise in some cases of the far right. And I'm wondering what messages activists of your generation have for the activists of today.
Yes, well, I would say don't let it get you down, because we've been through worse. Yeah, it's less than 200 years that black people were slaves. And we fought back again. It didn't happen because the white people suddenly decided that they were going to stop. They were dealing with, insurgent black riots and demonstrations. And the civil rights movement was fighting in a situation where it was actually illegal for black people to actually walk on the street in some place. In some place in the South, if a white person was walking along the pavement and a black person was walking, the black person would literally have to get and walk into the street, the traffic, to let the white person walk past. And if they didn't, they could get arrested or fined. That's how bad things were. And that was when I was 14 when those laws were changed, in 1964.
Wow. So within living memory.
Yeah. Some of the worst of these things, yeah. But unfortunately, as you say, I think, actually, I'm not quite sure. I'm actually shocked at America, at what Trump is getting away with, because I know that he got in the presidency by appealing to the worst aspects of America. It's racism, it's sexism, financial greed and so on. But I didn't think he would get to the stage of being able to deport people who hadn't been charged with anything, who are not guilty of anything to other countries and hardly anyone's doing anything about it.
It definitely feels as though for everybody that's been an activist or that wonders whether they should be an activist, the answer now is definitely we need people to continue to push, to continue, because rights can be eroded as much as they can be granted.
Exactly. And I'm trying to get in touch with the LGB Alliance. Do you know them at all? They're the people who want to remove trans people from the LGBT. Mm-hmm. They don't want to, and they don't realize that their behavior is contributing to the behavior of people like Trump, because he's going for the trans people first because they're the ones who are most easily criticized by straight society, mm-hmm. and also criticized by some members of the LGBT society. But they'll go for us, straightforward gay men and women, if they can get away with it. Because Trump is just testing the water all the time. What can he get away with? And apparently he can get away with anything. I mean, so some of the stuff, I thought I knew how bad he was, but I actually thought he would be stopped by now, even by the Republicans. I thought some of them were going to say, no, this is not on. You can't have someone being thrown into prison because Trump says
they should.
And apparently you can.
And if you were going to speak to a young UK activist who maybe wasn't, thought, okay, America's too big of a challenge for me to take on, but a young UK activist here, what should they do? What should people be doing now to make sure that we don't get there?
Oh, I would say stand up for what you believe is right. Align yourself as closely as you can to the people that you know would be most vulnerable. If you know other trans people, gay people, people subject to racial abuse, to religious denigrations, back them up. Let them know that you want to support them. And as I said, the really important thing is to recognize that this is much less than some of the stuff that we have overcome to get where we are now. Because we take for granted stuff that for 500 years was just not possible,
mm-hmm.
Yep. It was in 1923, I think, women got the vote. 102 years ago. And they actually had to go and, what's that woman? I've forgotten her name now, who threw herself underneath one of the king's horses.
Oh,
you know,
Davis.
Yeah. As part of the campaign to get the publicity and say, we want. So for the last how many thousand years in Britain, women had no vote. Or the injustice of class in this system. I only recently found out that when Anne Boleyn was being challenged by Henry VIII, she wasn't allowed solicitors or lawyers.
Really?
I did not know that. I thought, right, he's very powerful. He's brought accusations against her, and she's, the case that she has mounted didn't stand up, or he just ran over it. But she wasn't allowed. I mean, what is that?
Yeah, the corruption of power.
Yeah.
And,
so, yes.
And the things people will do to stay in power.
Yeah.
And the way that they'll push down minorities to stay in power.
Exactly.
It's a story of the ages that doesn't go away, and we might feel that things are good at one point, and people would be very happy to come in and take away our rights.
Yeah. I mean, to anybody who's a bit concerned about these things, I would say these people will only get away with what they're trying to get away with if we say we can't fight back.
Yeah.
And with that, I'm going to say thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure to talk to you.
It's been brilliant. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
And thank you for your lifetime of activism.
Of being a troublemaker, your mom.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening to The View from Here. Of course, there's a lot of politics in any movement, but the political views you've heard across the series don't necessarily reflect the views of the podcast.
If you enjoyed this episode, please consider subscribing and leaving a review, as well as sharing the word on social media. Join us next time for more personal stories from the front lines of LGBTQ+ history.